I still remember the morning my husband, Michael, looked at me like I was a stranger sitting across the kitchen table. It was a quiet winter day in our small home in Ohio. The heater hummed softly. The smell of cinnamon coffee filled the air. Everything felt ordinary, except the way he stared at me. He set his mug down slowly, almost like he was choosing the right moment to break something delicate. And then he said words that still echo inside me. He whispered, "Emma, maybe this marriage isn't working anymore. We've been trying for years. You can't give me a child. Maybe it's time to accept that." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't sound angry. But the quietness in his tone hurt more than any shouting ever could. He blamed me. Not directly, not harshly, but clearly enough that it burned. He never asked how many nights I cried silently. He never wondered what it felt like to see pregnancy tests come back negative again and again. He never asked how it felt to sit in doctors' offices hearing words I wished I could unhear. And so, when he finally said he wanted a divorce, I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, staring at the steam rising from my coffee, and nodded. I packed slowly. I folded my clothes with trembling hands. I walked out of the house we built together. A house filled with dreams that never came true. When I closed the front door behind me, I whispered to myself, if life takes something from you, maybe one day, it gives something back. I didn't know then that two little souls, Liam and Lily, were waiting somewhere in this world, ready to change my life. I didn't know that one day I would return, and that my ex-husband, Michael, would look at me with disbelief. Not because I came back, but because I came back with two children who changed everything. When I married Michael Carter, I believed I was stepping into a loving life. He was gentle, kind, thoughtful, the kind of man who opened doors and remembered birthdays. Our home in a quiet Ohio neighborhood was small but warm. Light gray walls, wooden floors, a tiny front porch where we sometimes sat and watched the evening sky. Life felt normal, comfortable, hopeful. We dreamed about having a family. He talked about having a little boy who'd play baseball with him. I dreamed of a little girl who'd sit on my lap while I braided her hair. For a long time, these dreams filled our mornings and nights. After 1 year of trying for a baby, nothing happened. Friends told us not to worry. Michael brushed it off, saying, "It'll happen when it's meant to." But deep down, I felt a small fear growing. Year 2 passed. Still nothing. People started asking questions, the kind that make your heart sink. Michael slowly stopped talking about kids. He spent more time at work, often came home tired, distant. One night, while we watched a family commercial on TV, a baby laughing in the background, he quietly turned the channel. He didn't mean to hurt me, but it stung like a silent wound. I still remember the cold, sterile smell of Dr. Thompson's office. He was kind, patient, but his eyes softened before he even spoke. "Emma," he said gently, "your chances of natural conception are very low. Not impossible, but low." I stared at the paper he handed me. My hands shook. My eyes blurred. Low ovarian reserve. Low probability. Low hope. I looked at Michael, searching for comfort. But he looked away. The drive home was silent. He didn't hold my hand. He didn't say a word. He just stared ahead, jaw tight. When we reached home, he went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. I sat on the couch, clutching the test results, and whispered a prayer. Not for a baby anymore. Just for strength. For peace. For anything that could help my breaking heart. After the diagnosis, the house that once felt warm began to feel heavier. I noticed little things first, things most people would ignore, but I felt them deeply. Michael stopped touching me gently as he used to. No hand on my back when I passed by. No soft kiss before leaving for work. No quiet goodnight when he turned off the lamp. It was as if something inside him had quietly closed. He wasn't unkind. He wasn't angry. He was just distant. There are nights when I'd wake up and find him sitting in the living room in the dark, staring at the silent TV screen. I would walk over and ask softly, "Michael, are you okay?" He always responded the same way.
I'm fine, Emma.
Just tired. But I could hear the truth hiding behind his voice. He wasn't just tired. He was disappointed. We lived in a small community. People notice things. People ask questions. At church on Sundays, older women with kind but sharp eyes would smile at me and say, "So, any good news yet?"
Or,
"You too should try faster. Time doesn't wait." Some would give advice I never asked for. Herbal teas. Miracle diets. Random tips they heard from someone who knew someone. Every question felt like a reminder of something I didn't have. Michael hated these questions too, but not for the same reason. I could feel the embarrassment in his posture whenever someone asked.
it was always directed at me.
Not consciously, not intentionally, but clearly enough. My closest friend, Sarah Mitchell, visited one afternoon. She brought homemade soup and a warm hug. She sat beside me on the couch and held my hand. "Emma, you look tired. What's going on?" I looked around the living room, as if the walls could answer for me. Then I whispered, "It's getting worse." The distance. The silence. Sarah squeezed my hand gently. "Have you talked to him?" I nodded, but my voice cracked as I replied. "He listens, but he doesn't hear me anymore." Sarah stayed for hours, talking to me softly, reminding me that I wasn't alone. But when she left, the house became silent again.
Too silent.
As months passed, things in our home began shifting in ways that felt small on the surface, but enormous inside me. Michael started working later. He came home tired, frustrated, impatient. He wasn't cruel, but his kindness felt automatic, as if he was acting out the role of a husband rather than being one. We rarely spoke about trying for a baby anymore. Whenever I brought it up, even gently, he would stiffen. His shoulders tensed. His eyes looked away. One night, I gathered courage and said, "Michael, I miss you. I miss us." He didn't get angry. He just sighed, a long, heavy sigh I felt deep in my chest. "Emma, I don't know what to say." I whispered, "Say anything. I just need you to talk to me." But he didn't. He stood, walked to the kitchen, and washed his plate. That moment felt like the quiet breaking of something I loved. One evening after dinner, he sat down across from me at the table, the same table where we once talked about baby names and school districts and future Christmas mornings. But his eyes looked different now. Tired.
Lost.
He rubbed his forehead with his hand and said softly, "Emma, I can't do this anymore." My heart stopped. He continued slowly, choosing his words carefully. "I want a family. I want children. And you can't give me that." I felt a sharp pain inside, but I kept my voice calm. "So you want to leave me because of something I can't control?" He didn't answer right away. Then he whispered, "I don't know what else to do." His words were gentle, but each one felt like a blade. I stared at him, searching for a trace of the man I married, the man who once held me close, who dreamed with me, who loved me for more than my ability to have a child. But I couldn't find him. It was like he had disappeared long before this conversation. 2 days later, I began packing. The hardest part was folding the little baby onesie I had bought years ago, a soft white one with tiny stars on it. I had kept it hidden in a drawer, waiting for the day I might need it. I placed it back in the drawer and closed it gently. I packed my clothes, my books, my photographs, my memories. Michael stood quietly in the doorway, not saying a word. At one point, I looked at him and whispered, "Were we really so easy to end?"
He looked down. "I'm sorry, Emma."
I didn't mean to hurt you, but he already had. When I finally walked out carrying my bags, the evening sky was turning gray. A soft wind brushed my face. The neighborhood looked the same, calm, peaceful, unaware that my entire life was changing. Michael stood by the front door. He said softly, "I hope you find happiness, Emma." I forced a small smile. "I hope you find what you're looking for too." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't cry until I reached the end of the street. And when I did, it was the quiet kind of crying. The kind where tears fall but your voice stays silent. That night, as I lay on Sarah's couch, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, maybe this is not the end. Maybe life is leading me somewhere else.
I didn't know how true that would be.
I didn't know 2 children, Liam and Lily, were waiting somewhere in this world for me, and I didn't know that one day, Michael would look at me again, not with disappointment, but with shock. The first few weeks after leaving Michael felt like walking through fog. Some mornings, I woke up on Sarah's couch and needed a few seconds to remember where I was. Every object in her living room was unfamiliar. The blue throw blanket, the scented candles on the table, the old clock that ticked louder than any clock I'd ever heard. It wasn't home, but it was safe. Sarah never made me feel like a burden. She cooked for me, left small notes on the fridge, and checked on me gently, the way someone checks on a wounded bird. But even with her kindness, my heart felt heavy. I had lost my marriage, my dreams, and the future I once imagined. I felt like I was grieving someone who was still alive. One morning, Sarah sat beside me as I stared at my untouched breakfast. She said softly, "Emma, I know you're hurting, but you can't stay frozen here. You have to live again, even slowly." Her voice didn't push. It guided. That afternoon, for the first time in weeks, I stepped outside. I took a walk around the neighborhood. I listened to the sound of children playing in yards, dogs barking, leaves rustling in the wind. Life was happening everywhere, except inside me. But something about the fresh air made me feel a little lighter, a little stronger. I decided to take small steps. I found a part-time job at a local bookstore, a place that always smelled like paper and calm silence. I spent my days stacking shelves, greeting customers, and recommending books. No one there knew my story. No one looked at me with pity. It was the first place where I felt like I could breathe again. But nights were hard. Nights were the worst. I would lie awake thinking about the home I left, the man I loved, the family I never had. Sometimes I wondered if Michael was happier without me, if he had moved on, if he found someone who could give him what I couldn't. These thoughts didn't make me angry, just sad, a soft, quiet sadness that lived inside me like a shadow. One night, I whispered a prayer. "God, if you've closed one door, please open another. Show me where I'm meant to go." I didn't know then that the answer to that prayer was already on its way. A few months later, Sarah dragged me, gently but firmly, to a local community event at a family center. "Come on, Emma," she said with a playful smile. "You need sunshine, and people, and maybe even kids." I laughed weakly. I wasn't ready for that.
But I went anyway.
The community center was full of noise, laughter, chatter, footsteps running across wooden floors. There were families everywhere. Mothers carrying toddlers, fathers holding babies, little kids drawing with crayons. A bittersweet ache filled me, but I continued walking slowly. At the far corner, there was a small booth run by a nonprofit that supported children in foster care. They were raising awareness, sharing success stories, and encouraging people to volunteer. Want to take a look? Sarah asked softly. I nodded, not because I planned anything, but because my feet carried me there. A young woman at the booth, Grace Miller, her name tag said, smiled warmly at me.
Hi, she said.
Are you interested in volunteering? I opened my mouth to decline politely, but something inside me stopped me. Before I knew it, I heard myself say, maybe I could help. Grace's smile softened even more. That's wonderful. We always need people with kind hearts. Kind hearts. No one had said anything nice to me in months without pity behind their tone. Grace handed me a small booklet about mentoring children, reading to them, spending time with them, helping them feel safe and valued. As I flipped through the pages, one picture caught my eye. A little girl with soft curls and big eyes, holding the hand of a small boy who looked just like her. Twins. Looking for a forever home. My heart stopped. I stared at the picture for so long that Grace leaned closer and said gently, they're sweet children. Very shy. They've been through a lot. I swallowed, feeling an ache I couldn't explain. A week later, I visited the family center again, this time alone. I sat in a small room filled with picture books and stuffed toys, waiting nervously. Then the door opened. Two small children walked in, a little boy clutching a toy truck, and a girl holding a worn-out teddy bear. They looked scared at first.
Shy.
Uncertain. But when the girl Lily met my eyes, something inside me softened. Her eyes were deep, searching, gentle. The boy, Liam, stood slightly behind her, peeking at me quietly. I smiled softly and said,
I'm Emma.
They didn't speak, but they walked a tiny step closer. That tiny step was the beginning of everything. I spent an hour with them that day. We read books. We talked a little. Liam warmed up first, showing me his truck. Lily sat closer to me than she did in the beginning. When it was time to leave, Lily reached out and touched my hand gently. Just a small touch. But it felt like my heart had found something it had been missing for years. As I walked out of the center, I felt a warmth inside me I hadn't felt since before Michael. The kind of warmth that feels like a new beginning. A quiet voice inside me whispered, maybe this is where your story starts again. I didn't know how right that voice was, because soon, these two little children would become my entire world. Days at the community center slowly became the brightest part of my week. Whenever I walked into the room, Liam ran toward me with his little truck raised high, ready to show me something new. And Lily, shy but brave, always held my hand first, her small fingers gently wrapping around mine. We read storybooks together. We drew little pictures with crayons. We built block towers that always leaned to the side but made them laugh anyway. Little by little, their presence started stitching the torn pieces of my heart back together. One evening as I drove home, I caught myself smiling without thinking. It felt strange, but beautiful. I whispered to myself, is this what happiness feels like again? One afternoon, Grace Miller asked me to stay back after my visit. She sat across from me in her small office, papers, toys, and a warm lamp glowing on her desk. Emma, she said gently, the twins are doing so much better since you've been coming. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread in my chest. They're wonderful children. Grace nodded. They trust you. That's rare. They don't open up easily. I looked down, fiddling with my hands. I care about them, I whispered. More than I expected. Grace paused, then spoke softly. Have you ever considered fostering? Or adoption maybe in the future? Her words felt like a soft earthquake inside me. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because the truth scared me. I cared for these children. Deeply. But could I really be a mother? Could I love them the way they deserved? Could I give them stability when my own life had been shaken apart? Still, a quiet part of me whispered, maybe you can. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. I was helping Lily tie her shoelaces when Liam, holding a picture he drew, tugged my sleeve. He pointed at the drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands. A woman, a boy, and a girl. Then he said softly, almost in a whisper, "Mommy, look." My hands froze. Lily looked up at me, eyes wide and unsure, as if she was afraid she'd said something wrong. But my heart felt like it shattered and healed at the same time. I felt tears rise, but I kept my voice soft. "You drew this, sweetheart?" Liam nodded proudly. "It's us," Lily said shyly. "You always come back like a mommy does." I pulled both of them into a gentle hug. Not tight, just enough to let them know I heard them. Enough to let them know their words touched me. That night, I sat on my bed staring at the simple application form Grace had given me weeks ago. Foster parent inquiry form. I traced my fingers over the words. I had wanted to be a mother for so long. I had cried over empty pregnancy tests. I had prayed for a child that never came. Maybe God had answered differently. Maybe he didn't ignore me. Maybe he redirected me. With trembling hands, I filled out the form. Name, Emma Carter.
Occupation, bookstore employé.
Relationship status, divorced. Preferred age, any. Open to siblings, yes. When I clicked submit, my heart pounded in a mix of fear and hope. I didn't know what the future held. I just knew I was ready to try. A few days later, Grace visited my small apartment. She checked the rooms, cupboards, and safety measures, but mostly, she talked to me. "Parenthood isn't about blood, Emma," she said softly. "It's about presence."
Love.
Showing up. I nodded, feeling my throat tighten. "Do you think I can do this?" I asked. Grace smiled warmly. "I don't think. I know." Her confidence became my strength. One Saturday morning, I was leaving the grocery store with a bag of snacks for the twins' visit when I heard someone call my name. "Emma?" I froze. I turned slowly, and there he was, Michael, standing just a few feet away, his hands in his pockets, his expression a mix of surprise and something else I couldn't name. He looked the same but different, older in his eyes, heavier in his posture. He stepped closer. "It's been a long time," he said softly. I nodded, keeping my voice calm. "Yes, that has." There was an awkward silence before he spoke again. "You look good. Happier than before." I wasn't sure how to respond. He hesitated, then asked, "Can we talk sometime? Maybe catch up?" My heart didn't jump the way it used to. It stayed still, quiet. "I'm busy these days," I said gently. "With what?" he asked. I hesitated, then responded softly. "With the children." He blinked, confused. "What children?" I didn't explain. Not yet. But I could feel the past and present standing face to face. And I knew this was only the beginning. Because soon, he would learn everything. And nothing in his world would ever be the same again. I sat across from Michael at the long wooden table. The same table where we once shared dreams. The same table where he once held my hand and promised, "We'll get through anything, Emma."
Now,
We were strangers who shared a past. He cleared his throat softly. "Emma, do they know about me?" His voice cracked. It surprised him as much as it surprised me. I looked down at my hands. They were trembling again. Not out of fear, but out of the weight of everything left unsaid. I answered slowly.
no, Michael.
They only know what is true. He blinked, confused. I continued gently. They know I love them. They know I wanted them. They know they changed my life. He swallowed. But do they know I'm their father? I felt a breath escape my lips. Michael, you're not. He froze. The room became still. Even the faint ticking of the kitchen clock felt louder. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I let a quiet moment pass before I added, I did not adopt them. I did not find them. They came into my life, unexpectedly. But, Michael, you are not their biological father. His eyebrows tightened with confusion and disbelief. Emma, then how? I looked at him calmly. Remember when the doctors said I could not carry a pregnancy? They were wrong. Or maybe life had its own timing. He inhaled sharply, his entire body shifting forward, as if he was trying to understand every word before it left my lips. You mean? I nodded softly. Yes, Michael. Liam and Lily, they are mine. My children. I carried them.
His face changed. Shock,
Regret. A pain he tried to hide. And something else. Something raw. He whispered, Emma, I left you. I looked at him. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. Just honesty. You gave up on me. He closed his eyes for a second, as if the truth was too heavy to hold. If I had stayed, would they have been mine? I hesitated. Then I answered with the truth he needed to hear. Maybe. Maybe not. But the point is, you didn't stay long enough to find out. Michael put his elbows on his knees and dropped his face into his hands. His shoulders shook. He wasn't loud.
he didn't sob.
He cried the quiet way a grown man cries, when regret is deeper than pride. After a long moment, he looked up. His eyes were red, but his expression was gentle. Emma, may I know them? I felt something twist inside me. A mother's instinct. A woman's wound. A human heart trying to be fair. I whispered softly, I don't know yet. Suddenly, the soft patter of tiny feet came from the hallway. Lily peeked around the corner first, her teddy bear dangling from her hand. Liam followed, rubbing his eyes. Mommy, who's that? Lily asked. Michael straightened, wiping his face quickly. I turned to the twins and smiled warmly. This is Michael, an old friend of mine. Michael swallowed hard but forced a tiny smile. Hi there. The twins looked curious. Not scared, not hesitant. Just innocent, like children who see the world as simple. Lily whispered, he looks sad. I felt my heart soften. Liam tugged my shirt. Mommy, can he stay for cookies? Michael let out a tiny breath, something between a laugh and a sob. I looked back at him. His eyes were pleading but humble, and for the first time, I saw a man who wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was asking for a chance to be better than his past. I stood up slowly. I'll bring cookies for everyone, I said gently. The twins cheered and ran toward the kitchen. Michael stayed seated, watching them with a look that held more emotion than words ever could. While I set the cookies on a plate, I felt something shift inside me. Not reconciliation. Not revenge. Not closure. Just clarity.
People change.
Life changes. Hearts heal. But wounds don't disappear. They simply stop bleeding. I walked back to the table and placed the cookies down. Michael whispered, Thank you for letting me see them. I nodded softly. One day at a time, Michael. If life wants to give you a place in their story, it will. He lowered his head, grateful. Michael did not touch the cookies. He only sat there, watching the twins eat theirs with bright little smiles. Lily giggled as crumbs stuck to her chin. Liam dunked his cookie in milk and made a tiny mess. Michael watched them, as if he was memorizing every second, as if each moment was a gift he felt unworthy of receiving. And for the first time, I saw something in his eyes. Humility.
Grief.
and a longing he tried to hide. After the twins finished, I sent them upstairs to wash their hands. Their laughter faded up the staircase, and silence filled the room again. A softer, heavier silence. Michael cleared his throat. Emma, I need to tell you something. I waited, not with anger, not with expectation, just quiet readiness. Michael leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly, as if the truth was hidden behind that breath. I didn't leave because of the infertility alone. I felt a slight tremble in my chest. He continued, I left because I felt worthless, like I was failing you. My eyebrows drew together slightly. Failing me? He nodded, looking at his hands. I kept thinking, what kind of man was I, if I couldn't give you the one thing you prayed for every night? His voice cracked again. Every doctor visit, every test, I saw you break a little more. And I hated myself. Not you. Myself. I felt a quiet ache settle somewhere behind my ribs. I whispered, Michael, you never said that. He shook his head gently. I didn't know how. And then, when the pressure grew, I panicked. I thought leaving would let you find someone better, someone who could give you a family. My throat felt tight. He wasn't making excuses. He was exposing wounds he had never dared to show. Michael wiped a tear the way men do. Quickly, almost secretly. The day I left, I thought I was doing the right thing. He paused. But the second the door closed behind me, I knew I had made the biggest mistake of my life. My breath caught quietly. Then why didn't you come back? He smiled sadly. Cowardice. The word hung in the air, heavy and honest. I told myself you deserved peace, without me complicating things. And then, I heard you had moved away, and I thought maybe you finally found your happiness. He looked up at me. I never imagined you would walk back into my life, holding 2 children. I didn't speak. I let the silence answer for me. And then, slowly, he whispered, They are beautiful, Emma. I nodded softly. They are everything I prayed for. A faint smile touched his lips. You look whole. I breathed in gently. I am. He swallowed. And I want to be better. Not for you. For them. If you ever let me. His words weren't forceful. They weren't demanding. They were soft, humble, filled with remorse and hope. The kind of hope that doesn't ask for forgiveness, but quietly wishes for a second chance. I looked at him with steady eyes. Michael, I don't know what your place in our life will be yet. His face dropped slightly, but he nodded. I understand. I continued. But I do know this. I don't hold anger toward you anymore. Life has changed too much for that. His lips parted, and relief washed through his expression. Thank you. Tiny footsteps pattered down the stairs. Lily ran toward me, her hands still a little wet. Mommy, can we show him our drawings? I hesitated for a moment, then looked at Michael. He stayed completely still, not wanting to overstep. I nodded gently. Just for a little while. Liam shouted, Yay! And pulled out a small notebook from the shelf. They ran to the living room carpet and sat in a circle of crayons and coloring books. Michael stayed on the couch, careful, distant, respectful. The twins showed him drawings of rainbows, cats, flowers, and a picture of me holding their hands. Michael's eyes softened again. These are amazing, he said quietly. Lily smiled proudly. Mommy says we're artists. Liam nodded. Yeah, and we want to make a storybook one day. Michael inhaled slowly, his eyes glistening with a kind of pain and a kind of joy. As I watched them together, I felt something inside me shift again. Not love, not reconciliation, just possibility. When it was time to leave, Michael walked to the door gently.
He looked at me one last time.
Emma, I know I can't undo what I did, but if you ever let me earn even a small place in their lives, I won't waste it. I nodded. One day at a time, Michael. He breathed out, as if those words were the beginning of hope. Good night, Emma. Good night. He stepped outside, pausing for a moment on the porch, as if he didn't want the moment to end. Then he walked away slowly, and I closed the door, without the pain I once felt, just a quiet peace. That night, after Michael left, the house felt different. Not heavier, not lighter, just still, like the air itself had paused to breathe. The twins were already asleep, curled up like two little kittens under their blankets. Liam's arm draped over his stuffed dinosaur, Lily asleep with her thumb resting near her cheek. I stood by their door for a long moment, just watching them. Their innocence, their safety, their peace. For years, I had walked through nights that felt endless. Nights filled with quiet prayers, silent tears, and fears I never said aloud. But now, my nights were calmer, full of warmth, small voices, and tiny footsteps. And suddenly, the presence of Michael felt like something from another lifetime. A different Emma, a different world, a different story. I closed their door gently, and for the first time in a long time, I did not feel alone. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the kitchen window as I made breakfast. Pancakes, Liam's favorite, and strawberries for Lily. The twins talked nonstop as they always did. Liam pointed at the chair where Michael had sat. Mommy, your friend was sad. I paused for a moment, flipping a pancake slowly. Yes, sweetheart, he was. Lily swung her little legs from her seat. Why? I turned to her with a soft smile. Sometimes grown-ups get sad about things they should have done but didn't. Lily nodded seriously, as if she understood something much deeper. Like when I forget to say sorry? I smiled warmly. Yes, a little like that. Liam asked suddenly, will he come back? My hands stilled for a moment. Maybe, I answered gently. Only if it's good for all of us. They both accepted the answer with the simplicity only children have. Later that afternoon, a soft knock sounded at the door. Not forceful, not hesitant, just gentle. I opened it to find a small brown box on the porch. There was no one around. A note was taped on top. For Liam and Lily for Michael. Inside the box were 2 small sketchbooks and a pack of crayons. Simple, thoughtful, not overbearing. Lily gasped with delight. Liam jumped up and down. I felt something warm spread through my chest. Not for Michael, but for their happiness. I sent him a short message. One single line. They loved the gift. Thank you. He responded almost immediately.
I'm glad.
Please tell them I said hi. Just that. Nothing more. No pressure. No questions.
No assumptions.
A small step. A careful one. In the weeks that followed, life slipped into a new rhythm. Michael did not try to force his way back into my life. He didn't show up unexpectedly. He didn't push for answers. He didn't ask for more than I could give. Instead, he sent small notes. A book recommendation for the twins. A simple, hope you're doing well. A quiet, have a peaceful day.
No expectations.
Just presence. And I realized something. He was changing. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But quietly. In a way that felt real. One evening, as I tucked the twins into bed, Lily looked up at me with those wide, curious eyes. Mommy, do we have a daddy? The question I always knew would come. Liam sat up too, watching me carefully. I sat beside them on the bed and breathed slowly. You have love. You have safety. You have me. And that has always been enough. Lily placed her tiny hand on mine. But do we have a daddy somewhere? I nodded softly. Every child has someone who helped bring them into the world. But what matters most is the people who stay, who love you, who protect you. Liam whispered, like you. My voice softened. Yes, sweetheart. Like me. They relaxed again, but the question lingered in their eyes. A question that one day I would have to answer more clearly. That night, my phone buzzed with a message. It was Michael. Emma, may I ask something? Very small. If the twins ever want to draw something for me, could you send a picture? Only if you're comfortable. I read the message twice. It wasn't a request for visitation, not for involvement, just a human longing, a quiet wish to be included, in the smallest way possible. I replied, if they ever do, I will. He sent back, thank you. I'm grateful, more than you know. As I set my phone down and turned out the light, I felt something settle inside my heart. Not love for him, not resentment either, just acceptance of the past, of the present, of the life I had built without him, and the one unfolding slowly now. He was no longer the man who walked away. He was a man who was trying, and I was a woman who had grown stronger than her pain. The days continued with gentle predictability. Morning light filtered into the kitchen. The twins filled the house with laughter. Life felt steady, almost serene. But quiet shifts were happening beneath the surface. Not dramatic, not rushed, just real. Michael's presence remained soft. A message here, a kind gesture there, and always from a distance. And slowly, that distance became less painful, less complicated, less tied to the old wounds. It became simply space, space that allowed healing to breathe. One afternoon, the twins were coloring in their sketchbooks, the ones Michael had sent. Lily looked up and said, Mommy, can I draw something for your friend? Liam nodded eagerly. Me too. I felt a small tug inside my chest, but I smiled softly. Of course. They worked quietly for almost half an hour. Their crayons moved with focus and innocence. Liam drew a picture of 3 stick figures, me in the middle, him on one side, Lily on the other. Below it he wrote, "Thank you for the colors." Lily drew a house with a tall tree beside it, and a tiny heart floating above the roof. When they were done, I took pictures of their drawings. My hands trembled a little as I pressed send. The twins wanted to share these with you.
Michael rapplia moments late.
These are the most beautiful drawings I have ever seen. Please tell them I said thank you. I did. The twins beamed with pride. A few days later, Michael sent another message. Not demanding, not emotional, just honest. Emma, I know my place in your life is uncertain, and I accept whatever you decide. But if the day ever comes when you think the twins should know the truth about their father, I would like to be honest with them together. I stared at the message for a long moment. The old Emma would have shaken, cried, broken under the weight of such a question. But the Emma I had become was stronger,
Calmer.
wiser. I replied simply, "When that day comes, we will handle it gently." He responded, "Thank you. That's all I hoped for." And I believed him. Spring arrived slowly. The air was warmer. The trees outside our home began to bud with soft green leaves. One Saturday morning, I took the twins to a small park nearby. They played on the swings, laughing as the wind brushed through their hair. I sat on a bench, watching them with a quiet smile. Then, gently, a familiar voice said, "Emma?" I turned. Michael stood a few feet away. He wasn't hesitant. He wasn't overconfident. He simply existed in that moment. Respectful,
Calm.
careful. I was just passing by, he said softly. If this is not okay, I can leave. I shook my head. It's okay. He stayed several steps away, close enough to be present, far enough not to intrude. The twins eventually noticed him. Liam waved first, his little hand swinging wildly. Lily shouted, "Hi, friend." Michael laughed softly, lifting his hand in return. They invited him to push the swings. He looked at me. I nodded. And for the next few minutes, the sound of the swings creaking, mixed with the twins' joyful giggles. Michael didn't touch them. He didn't crowd them. He simply stood beside the swings and gave them gentle pushes. Nothing more. But in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't about the past anymore. It wasn't about our broken marriage. It wasn't about betrayal, or mistakes, or the years of emptiness.
It was about now.
About what was possible. About what was safe. About what was gentle. After the twins ran off to chase butterflies, Michael sat on the far end of the bench, leaving space between us. "They're wonderful," he said quietly. "They are," I replied. He looked ahead, eyes soft. "Emma, I'm not asking for a second chance with you. I know those days are gone. But if there is ever a day when they want to know me, just as a person, I want to be someone worthy of that."
His voice didn't shake this time.
It was steady, the voice of a man who had learned humility the hard way. I answered gently, "Michael, people change. And you are trying. That matters." He nodded, a quiet breath leaving his lips. "I don't want to take anything from you," he said. "You built this life. You raised them. You gave them everything." I looked at him, really looked, and I realized something I hadn't admitted before. He wasn't asking to share my life. He was asking to share responsibility for the grief of the past and the hope of the future, not as a husband, not even as a father, but as someone who finally understood what leaving had cost. I spoke softly. "We'll move slowly, at their pace. And if life allows, you can be someone good in their story." Michael exhaled, a trembling, grateful breath. "Thank you, Emma, for this chance, for your kindness, for everything." I nodded. "Let's take things one step at a time." Time passed gently. The twins grew. Their laughter filled new rooms, new seasons, new memories. And Michael kept his promise. He never pushed, never rushed, never tried to reclaim a place he had lost. He simply showed up, consistently, quietly, respectfully. And because of that, one evening, when Liam was 8, and Lily had just turned 8 as well, they sat beside me on the couch. Lily asked, "Mommy, who helped make us?" I looked at them with a soft smile. And for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt peace. "We'll talk about that tomorrow," I said gently. "And someone special will join us." The next day, Michael came over, sitting with quiet humility on our living room floor. And together, we told them the truth. There were tears. There was confusion. There were questions. But there was also warmth,
Acceptance.
and love. The calm kind that takes years to grow. Liam eventually scooted closer to Michael and asked, "Can we still call you our friend?" Michael's voice cracked as he whispered, "You can call me anything you're comfortable with, and I will always be here." And Lily, with her soft little smile, added, "Mommy's not alone anymore." I looked at Michael, not with love, not with longing, but with forgiveness. And finally, with closure. Life doesn't always give second chances. And when it does, they rarely look like the fairy tales we imagined. Sometimes, a second chance is simply a quiet healing, shared between people who once broke each other. Michael never became my husband again, but he became something else. A steady presence, a gentle supporter, a man who grew from his mistakes.
And
I became a woman who rebuilt her world, who found strength in silence, and who learned that forgiveness is not a gift we give the past. It's a freedom we give ourselves. And my twins, Liam and Lily, they became proof that life blossoms. Even after the coldest winter, some stories don't end with romance. Some end with peace,
growth, hope,
and a future where no one carries their pain alone. And that is enough.